Pac-Man World Re-Pac, an old yet newly packaged game, repackaged game that was only on the PS1 and is now on all platforms like PlayStation, Xbox, and of course the Nintendo Switch. But in today's video, we are going to be looking at and determining if the Switch version is the best version and if you should get it on Switch or if you should get it on the PlayStation, Xbox, or other consoles. Is it good and is it best on Switch? That's the question we're answering today. Pac-Man World Re-Pac seemed like it was meant to be on the Switch from the very beginning. In fact, it was announced at the most recent Nintendo Direct Partner Showcase. Pac-Man World starts at Pac-Man's house, and the sneaky little ghosts are trying to capture Pac-Man, but instead they capture Pac-Man's entire family, and that brings him to the big boss robot Pac guy. So it's a pretty basic story. The gameplay is okay. I don't know why the game feels like there's latency when I move and jump. It could be because the Switch is at 30 frames per second, but I don't think that's it. The movement just feels very stale. It's difficult to get the hang of it because of how loose everything feels. After playing the game for 30 minutes or so, I found it did get easier after I'd gotten used to it. Just watch the footage of the game in slow-mo. You can see quite a bit of delay from tapping jump to Pac-Man actually jumps. And I think that's for all of the movement in this game. Maybe that's how it was made in the first game on the original PS1, and they were just trying to replicate that, and yeah, I guess that could just be it. But at least the vibration on the controls are good. And now let's look at the graphics, which is the main reason why or why not you might want to get it on Switch. The graphics are actually really good. In fact, they're great. It's no Last of Us Part 1, but for a Switch game, I was pleasantly surprised to see the graphics be so good, especially from a third-party developer. This game looks crisp. Again, for a Switch game. Runs 1080p docked and 720p handheld, and there's no Vaseline-looking haze in this game. It's clear and the resolution is good. But the frame rate is where I was hitting the neck a little bit. There's just something off about the frame rate. There's really weird jitter, and you can see what I'm talking about very apparently in the main hub world. Pac-Man looks fine while he's doing his running and jumping, but the background and levels look shaky and jittery. Like the camera guy had a little bit too much pellets, if you're picking up what I'm throwing down. The game is more than playable, it's just one of those things where my eyes needed to adjust. And yeah, the frame rate is half-baked at 30 frames per second, and I say half-baked because the console counterparts are a smooth 60 frames per second, and I just don't see the same stuttering or jittery effect on the other consoles, but I think that's because it's at 60. Oh, but one more thing. Do you actually want to play at a higher frame rate? Or less latency? Well then turn on performance mode, which is hidden in the options menu for some reason. Yeah, all those things I complained to you about, you can mildly brush them aside because there's actually a performance mode. This seems to boost the frame rate and make it have a little less latency. So I don't know why this is even an option, and I don't know why it's not the default. So needless to say, when the performance mode is on, the resolution goes down a bit, but I think having a better performance is way more important than the resolution. The jitteriness is still there, but I would say it's a lot less noticeable. Anyways, so obviously this is a personal preference thing, but I think performance mode is the way to go. Hands down, performance is better than graphics. Now let's talk about the level design and atmosphere. It's clear that this was a PS1 game, especially from the level designs alone. From the odd invisible barriers to some strange difficulty spikes, the game will lend new players a hand by giving them a little Yoshi glide in the air, and tutorials whenever a new gameplay mechanic is introduced, like the Rev Roll, which has some cool mechanics that can help you hit enemies and get to certain places. Or the Pac Dot Attack, which is an attack, where you throw the dots. I keep forgetting that I can even use this. It's clearly a repackaged game, and that's not a bad thing at all. In fact, that's part of the charm. It might be a little more inexcusable if the game costs more, but for a $30 game, this is more than fine. But is it worth the value? Well yeah, I think it is. For a remake of a loved game that could take you 6 to 7 hours, then it's a steal for some of those who played the originally and want to try rebooting this and have that nostalgia. Though you can tell this is $30 because of the production value, and it doesn't look as good as some other remakes like Crash Bandicoot or Spyro, that just makes it look a little better on Switch just because it's so much more simplistic. So let's go back to the main question. Is it best on Switch? Well, that's up to you. Do you plan on playing it handheld, which it plays perfectly in, and you should definitely try it out. But if you're not going to play it handheld, and you're a big frames per second person, then maybe the Switch version isn't for you. But in my case, I'm going to be playing handheld a lot this week, and I'm going to try to get it all exclusively through handheld. From the OG Pac-Man maze-style gameplay, to the collectibles, and the overall nostalgic story, I promise you, you will not regret getting it on the Switch if you do decide to pick it up. So for me, yes, Pac-Man World Re-Pac is best on Switch, but that really comes down for you to decide. But let me know in the comments, are you gonna get this? And if you are gonna get it, are you gonna get it on Switch, PlayStation, Xbox? Tell me what you're gonna get it on. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. See you later.